Welcome to HP Fanfiction. Support me by subscribing the channel. Also, like and share the video to keep me motivated to make more videos like these. Fleur had heard talk all week of this event. Now she was seeing it for herself. The wondrous room that they trained in every morning and had hosted the Merlin Ball now contained a fabulously festive ice rink. Her date was chuckling at her side. "We're getting used to this room. If that's at all possible, this is our third Christmas. Having a party in here, our reactions were pretty similar to yours the first time we saw it." Roger took Fleur over to the tables where the skates were waiting on them. Holding hands while skating around the massive Christmas tree would never get old. There were a few staff members proving that point by skating alongside their students. The French champion made another discovery when they eventually sat down to eat. Fred and George, introducing their girlfriends, made Fleur realize she knew far more members of the lower years than she did tonight's crowd, which was reserved for the 6th and 7th years. What was strange, though, was none of the group that had Harry at its center acted younger than the people here tonight. Quite the opposite. Alicia and Angelina seemed far more interested that their boyfriends knew Victor than that they took lessons with Avila every Sunday, a refreshing change for Fleur. It would also be a change to board the Hogwarts Express tomorrow, heading home with Harry and Hermione for the holidays. Her family would arrive a day later and she was really looking forward to that. Gliding along the ice with Roger at her side was also very pleasant and boded well for the ball next week. She had dreaded going with someone who would have drooled all over her for the entire evening. The Gryffindor boy McLegan coming to mind. She would be there with Roger, Harry and Hermione, Victor and of course his mysterious date. The girls here tonight were all watching the Bulgarian champion like hawks, each hoping for some clue as to who he was taking to the ball. If his date was here tonight, she was a superb actress. Neither she nor Victor were giving anything away. Hermione still had her planner out as the express sped toward London. Okay, the Delacours are arriving tomorrow. The Creevys, McDonald's and Abercrombies on the 23rd. Then it's just family until the evening of Christmas Day. After that party we have Tonks and Remus getting married on the 27th and New Year will be celebrated at Kingersea too. That's a lot of work, Hermione. I know my parents offered to host New Year. It was Harry who quickly cut her off. No, Padma. Until this is over we need keep our families close. Your home may have the same wards as Crow's Nest, but it doesn't have squads of goblin warriors based there. We're getting so near to a final solution, now is not the time to be taking the slightest chance. Harry stopped as they were interrupted again by people popping in to wish them a Merry Christmas. When it was once more just the four of them, he continued, "We know this is going to be over soon. Until it is, let's keep everyone together as much as possible. I want this to be our best Christmas ever." None of them mentioned it might be their last. The thought was there in the back of all their minds, though. Platform 9 3/4 was a happy place as families were once more reunited. Harry couldn't help but notice Orla's accent slipping right back to where it originally was the instant she started talking with her parents. Harry wanted to make sure the Quirks understood they were welcome at both the Christmas and New Year events being held in Kingersea. He was promised Orla's owl would let them know their decision beforehand. Tonks was waiting for them on the platform. Her portkey would take all of them to Kingersea where their families were waiting. Hermione and Padma were left chuckling at Harry, who was trying to ignore Luna kissing Colin goodbye. Bill was standing beside a very happy mother and son, his gaze though still picked up Ginny watching Luna with her boyfriend. "How's my favorite sister? Those marauder trainer robes look good on you, Ginny. Just remember what I said, no dating until you're 26. Rolling her eyes at her brother's old joke, Ginny told Bill how things really were. Chance would be a fine thing. All the good wizards seem to be getting snapped up. Dean Thomas invited me to the Yule Ball yet. Has hardly spoken another word to me since asking. Even Ron's got a girlfriend, and he's invited Lavender to Christmas dinner with us. That should be loads of fun. You'll need to tell me about it. I'm having Christmas dinner in Kingersea." Ouch. I bet that news went down well with Mum. About as well as Percy telling her they were spending this Christmas with Penny's family. They intend to do it year about with each family. Not a bad idea, though Mum didn't seem to agree. Is Charlie coming home? Not this year. Oh great, I'm beginning to wish I'd stayed in Hogwarts. It would certainly be more peaceful. At least tell me Dad's not having to work during the holidays." He couldn't help but smile at his sister. After all their initial worries, she was growing into a fine witch. Like teenagers the world over though, Ginny was in such a hurry to grow up. "We're not working on anything at the moment that has the potential to see Dad missing the holidays. That's at least something. You here to take us home?" "Sorry, Ginny. Percy's here for that. I'm taking Jenny, Ewan and the McDonalds home. I will be at the Burrow during the holidays though." Ginny found herself hugging her favorite brother, not missing that Bill had said the Burrow rather than home. She wondered if there had been words between Bill and Mum over his choice of girlfriend. Ginny hadn't spoken to Ron's girlfriend since warning Lavender what would happen if she cheated on her brother again. Now Ginny was going to have to spend Christmas Day in Lavender's company, and that, combined with her 3 missing sons, would put her mum in a very bad mood too. Ginny couldn't see Christmas in the Burrow being very merry this year. The situation in Kingersea couldn't have been more different. The joy was evident the instant they portkeyed into the training room. They might have been keeping up with some of the family during Hogwarts meetings, but this was the first time since Jamie's christening they'd seen Sapphire, Lucas, Moa and Zeno. It is a bit much to take in, but it will calm down a bit once everyone gets reacquainted. "Okay, hello, Mrs. Granger. Hermione warned me, but that did not prepare me for this. I would like to thank you for inviting me and my family. Fleur, it's just Emma, and the Grangers are guests in this house too. It belongs to the Baron of Kingersea and his mate Hermione, of course. They are the ones that invited you. The rest of us are just happy you could make it. How did your schoolmates react to you being able to leave Hogwarts?" "To be honest, Emma, I think I have made more friends in my short time at Hogwarts than I have in my years at Beauxbaton. An Ozzer witch was favourite to represent our school. She has not taken me being chosen champion very well. Then I am currently in the Laird has stopped the critique for a while, but we will just have to see how there goes after the second task. Thankfully they've become so obsessed with Oak and Victor is taking to the ball that I have been getting peace. It will not last, says this." Her laughter may have surprised Fleur, but Emma just couldn't help it. "I think Victor's date will still have them talking well after the second task." It was clear Emma knew who Victor's date was, but she was looking at the group of girls just confused Fleur more. All of those girls already have dates for the ball. There is no way Harry would let Hermione go with someone else. "Oh, you're right about that. You just missed one of the girls." It hit Fleur like a sledgehammer. Sacre bleu Sapphire. That stopped all conversation, and saw everyone looking toward the French champion, leaving Fleur no choice but to ask the question that was already on her lips. "Sapphire is Victor's date for the ball." This saw the goblin in question laughing. "That was supposed to be kept quiet, Emma. Not even 10 minutes. No one here is going to spoil your big entrance, Sapphire." Fleur really needed to know though. With Harry, Hermione, Roger and Victor already at the top table, adding Fleur will give you total support amongst the champions. I know Roger already counts you as a friend. I hope I can be one too." It was a smiling Harry who settled the matter. "Fleur, you're in Kingersea now. We're all friends or family here." The girl in question couldn't help but notice that fact later at dinner. Outside her home, Fleur was struggling to remember when she'd eaten a meal in friendlier company. Harry was having a wonderful dream, where he and Hermione were getting really friendly only to discover he wasn't dreaming. His voice was barely above a whisper, as he asked the first question that came into his newly awakened brain. "Hermione, what are you doing?" "I would have thought that was obvious, Harry." "Okay, why are you in my bed and doing what you're doing?" "Don't you want me to be doing this?" "Hermione, I'm holding on to my remaining senses here. By a thread. You never do anything without a reason though, and I want to hear that reason before I don't care anymore." Hermione snuggled in close, her whispering in his ear wreaking further havoc to Harry's already weakened defenses. "We agreed to finalize our bond before the third task. I don't really want my first time to be in Hogwarts. This means so much more to us. It will make us husband and wife. We shouldn't be sneaking about the castle's corridors looking for a quiet room to do that. The reason why the Blacks, Hobsons and Delacours are all sleeping in the new chalet accommodation begin to make sense. You have no idea how difficult it was to organize everyone so not to have others sharing our bedrooms. I'm almost frightened to ask, is that why Neville has a room to himself too? When no answer came, Harry just held her closer. I know how important this is for us. We were never going to be sneaking about Hogwarts in the middle of the night, nor are we going to do this while sneaking around Crow's Nest. This is our family home, and it just wouldn't feel right with all our family here. How are we supposed to face them in the morning? He could practically feel the confusion and disappointment radiate from his mate. Not a situation he would ever tolerate. Harry quickly banished both conditions. The weekend before the third task, we will leave Hogwarts after our potions class on Friday. That weekend will be spent on the island where, if my beautiful mate still wants to, we will finalize our bond. It took Hermione a moment to answer, and even then she was barely coherent. Really, love. This way I know I won't be worrying about the final task, and what we think that will bring with it. I'll be far too busy looking forward to that special weekend. I hope this will give you something to look forward to as well. Hermione's passionate kiss was all the answer he needed, and almost destroyed his resolve to wait there and then. That sounds absolutely wonderful, Harry. I wasn't really happy sneaking about to do this either. I just couldn't think of any other way. I'm certainly looking forward to that weekend now, and the island will be the absolutely perfect location to finalize our bond. This seems to be something you and Padma have discussed. Should we make this weekend open to them as well? The Patil Beach Chalet is at the other end of the row to the one Father and I use. We can have all the privacy we want. Glad it was dark to hide her blushes. Hermione thought that would be a good idea too. Padma approached me, guessing I'd want to complete our bond to make sure I'd be at your side. She and Neville are considering doing the same. None of us know how this fight is going to turn out. She wants to go into it though as Neville's wife. Having something to look forward to is also a wonderful idea. Sometimes I wish I'd never included you three in this. Harry had to put his hand over Hermione's mouth as she was ready to tear strips off him, and they still needed to be quiet. Then I think of all the things I would have missed out on, having you here in my arms, our two best friends and their families staying in our home. I'm sorry, Hermione, I might be being selfish here, but I wouldn't change a thing. He replaced his hand with his mouth and demonstrated the love he had for his mate with that kiss. It was some time later, and a rather breathless Hermione who eventually answered him. Sometimes, Harry, we have to be selfish. You go right on being so because I'm not going anywhere. Hermione didn't go anywhere, at least not until Betsy woke her in the morning before the house began stirring. It was cold that first morning in Kingassy, but Fleur was getting used to her morning workout. The five ran around the estate wherever possible, using the landscape as shelter from the biting wind. When they reached the growing goblin village, they were practically ordered into one of the houses for a warm drink, sitting sipping hot goblin ale, and surrounded by the children who were all delighted to see them. Harry was pleased to observe the French champion just accepting the goblin hospitality in her stride. Living in the southern part of France hadn't prepared Fleur for December's weather in the Scottish Highlands. Out of the five of them, she was the one most in need of the hot drink. Harry was also pleased none of the children asked why they weren't flying today. That was something he wanted to keep up his sleeve for the moment. There was no escaping though from the children dragging their new friend, Fleur, off to see their favorite exhibit in the Gringotts building. The children got the reaction they were looking for. All were chuckling away as Fleur's chin practically hit the floor, while Harry and Hermione made a point of speaking with the goldsmith and armorer, who now had businesses in the building. Padma and Neville were at a still shocked Fleur's side. No matter how many times I see it, I still get shivers right down my spine. Since the goblins rendered the basilisk, and their tailors make most of Neville and my formal clothes, it's about as accurate a portrayal of the situation as it's possible to make. Neville had his arm around Padma to help his mate with those shivers. It certainly helped him too. I prefer to think of my happy memory from that incident. I was scared witless, then Padma grabbed me and kissed those fears away. I was still scared but knew I would do my best to help us all get out of there. All our lives changed that day. Whatever trouble Harry or Hermione get into, the Longbottoms will be there to cover their backs. This earned him a kiss from his mate, who then tried to explain further to Fleur we know beyond question both of them would do the same for us. We're tentatively related because we're Jamie's godparents, but there were much stronger bonds forged that day, bonds forged never to be broken. I'm as close to Hermione now as I am to Parvati, considering Parvati's my twin. That should tell you something of our relationship. Harry is the reason I'm spending Christmas with my parents. They were as lost to me as his mum and dad are to him, yet he brought them back. He refuses even to recognize a debt exists, since my mum is also his godmother. The Longbottoms all know differently though. The end of the war is coming and we'll once more have to fight a deadly foe. Harry will be in the middle of it, Hermione right at his side, and we'll have their backs. I just hope we're as lucky again as we were that day. Fleur could see the emotions running through the couple. She put it down to an understandable reaction to what was currently right in front of them. There were so many stories about Harry and his friends circulating Hogwarts, that Fleur had fallen into the trap of believing they couldn't possibly all be true. The swords these four always wore were certainly real enough. They were currently strapped to their backs. She'd also seen the medals they wore for the Merlin Ball. Those were definitely real too. That they received one of those medals for bringing down the creature currently in front of them was absolutely earning an Order of Merlin. The hard way. I have never seen any signed like these, and hope I never do. A chuckling Hermione confirmed they never wanted to see another basilisk either. It was because of this that Harry Crow was made Baron of Kingussie, and wizarding law was changed to allow goblins to live outside Gringotts. That's why the director wanted a permanent monument to this in Kingussie. It will always have a special place in the nation's heart. Just like you, love. One visit to the goldsmith, and he's offering to make our wedding rings. A goblin-made wedding ring. Or Hermione, I'm so jealous. Her best friend, though, had some good news for Padma. Well, there's no need to be. He offered to make yours too. It would have taken him another 20 or 30 years to acquire his own business inside Gringotts. Here he has wonderful facilities and a home for him and his family. There are also a queue of young goblins now applying to apprenticeship under him. Kingussie has changed his life too, and he wants to thank the people who made it possible. Since he has to walk past this every day, he knows exactly who that is. A quick confirmation from Neville saw a now excited Padma hug everyone in range. Our rings will obviously feature my family design. We could see about having a Longbottom family design commissioned and registered. Harry, could ours be your family design too? This request seemed to floor Harry for a moment before a wide smile told Neville he hadn't just put his foot in it. That would be wonderful, Neville. What do you think, ladies? A pair of kisses later told both guys their mates thought that was a wonderful idea too. Fleur was now beginning to get some idea of what Hermione had tried to tell her. This was home for so many reasons other than that they happened to have a house here. It was also staring to realize there was more going on here than was being said. She thought of a few questions on the run home, but they left her head. The instant Fleur entered Crow's Nest and discovered her family had arrived in Kingussie, Apollon Delacour was so far out of her comfort zone it was scaring her. The atmosphere in Kingussie was like nothing she'd felt before. Henrika and Moa though were helping the Delacour family quickly fit right in. This today, however, was simply beyond her comprehension. There were young witches and wizards of every blood status shopping in this massive Muggle store. Add in both her Veela daughters, a goblin female wearing a hat. The entire group were being supervised by some Muggle parents, and Apollon felt her mental shutdown was not only justifiable but inevitable. Then there was the Weasley wizard to simply confuse her, even more. He came from an old pure-blood family, yet was assistant ambassador to the Goblin Nation. He was here with his Muggle girlfriend, and her magical son, but had also brought his young sister along, a day's shopping as a present for her Christmas. This was certainly not the Britain the Delacours had been expecting. Fleur had written home about some of the changes, but this beggared belief. It had started with a portkey to Gringotts. Watching as goblins saluted and bowed to Harry and Hermione was mind-blowing. A walk through Diagon Alley showed changes too. Practically everyone knew who they were and called greetings. They picked the rest of their party up in the Leaky Cauldron before a fleet of taxis ferried them to this department store. Gabrielle had been introduced to some of the Hogwarts students after the first task. Those same students had quickly struck up friendships with her youngest daughter when they arrived in Kingassy early this morning. Maggie Creevy was firmly stuck to Gabrielle's side, apparently appreciating having someone nearer her own age, and a girl to talk with. Opaline was beginning to decipher the hierarchy amongst the group. Didinas, Ewan, and Aura were all keeping a close eye on the two younger girls. They in turn were being watched over by Natalie and Pauline. Even though Luna and Colin were walking about holding hands, it was clear they too were acting in a supervisory capacity too. Then there was Harry. He seemed to miss absolutely nothing. Her husband was most impressed with Harry Crow, and he was not an easy man to impress. She was drawn out of her musings by the woman appearing at her side. "Are you all right, Apollon? You seemed as if you were in another world there." This drew a small chuckle. "Mary, I feel as if I am. Oh good, Roy and I get that quite often. I'm glad it's not just us. Your world can be a confusing place for those of us not raised in it. Funnily, it is my world I find strange. I see Gabrielle having fun and Flora, happy as Zen. I have seen her. It is also our de Monsieur Natalie making sure the younger ones are fine." This drew a smile from Mary. When Natalie was offered a Potter scholarship, Roy asked Harry straight off what he expected in return. His answer was very simple. He expected Natalie to do her best at her lessons and look after the younger years who would come behind her. None of the Potter scholars would even dream of letting Harry down, and I'm also pleased to say it's been the making of our daughter. She now has so many friends, even during the holidays she's writing, phoning or with Ewan. Flores suggested Gabrielle might like Hogwarts better. We thought she was making joke. Now I see eyes. I am not sure. It was a decision we certainly agonized over. I'm pretty sure we got it right. Harry said he wanted the Potter scholars to be like a family, and that's just how he treats them. Roy and I are getting on in years, and no one knows what the future will bring. We now know that should anything happen to us, our Natalie will have another family who will step in and look after her. I can't tell you what a comfort that is. Apollon had her hand on Mary's arm. You have raised a fine daughter, one to be proud of. Let us now do what we came here for and shop. I think our menfolk will need Zap Brandy to do this shooting with Dan in Kingassy. Oh no, Dan has strict safety protocols. Dobby would never hand a gun to someone with alcohol in them. My husband is going to be so disappointed. Apolline was laughing as she and Mary started browsing for things that held their interest. In Harrods that was many things. Bill entered the burrow with a nervous Jenny on his arm. Ginny shouting their names soon alerted the entire house. They were there. Molly arrived to see her daughter hugging her favorite brother. It wasn't lost on the mother that Ginny then hugged Jenny just as enthusiastically. "Ginny dear, you look beautiful. We thought you would have left by now." "Thanks, Jenny, we would have if Ronald didn't take so long getting himself ready for his date. If he makes us late." The noise generated by someone thundering down the stairs halted Ginny's rant. "Right, keep your hair on. I'm here. All that time and this is the result. Right, we need to leave. Now." Ron was left following behind his sister and waiting twin brothers. The argument hadn't stopped though. "Hey Ginny, what's the matter with how I look? I thought I looked good." "Dream on, Ron." That was Ginny's final comment as she used their flu to take them directly to the Hogwarts ballroom. "Oh dear, Ewan and the group from Kingassy left nearly an hour ago." Bill quickly answered his girlfriend, not wanting either Jenny or his mum to get upset over this. They had to leave early so Harry could open the room. Without that, those four wouldn't have been able to flow there. Arthur was making the couple welcome, while Molly busied herself making tea. Soon the four of them were seated and Arthur got the conversation ball rolling. "So, how are you enjoying working for Gringotts?" "I don't really work for the bank, Arthur. I just go in one day a week to try and help Barchoke's department understand a bit more about the non-magical world. He and Harry have done so much for me, I simply had to help out any way I could." This was the first Molly was hearing of this. "So you work with Bill, Percy and Penny?" "Oh yes, and Sapphire too." "Oops, that last bit is supposed to be a secret for now." Bill could only smile at that. It's only a secret because Barchoke wants to surprise Harry with it, and he wants to know why his son changed his mind over tonight's ball. It's not a state secret, love, more like a joke between father and son. "That's a relief. I don't think I'd be very good at keeping secrets. You won't have to worry with these two, they won't tell you any. Will you and your father be going for a walk in the orchard tonight? Bill felt Jenny react at his side. He wanted to kill that idea stone dead. There was no way he would be leaving Jenny alone with his mum. No business tonight, Mum. Strictly pleasure. I brought gifts to place under the tree. An excited Arthur tried to move the conversation along. Ginny loved her adventure in Muggle London yesterday. I want to thank you both so much for that. Ginny was even more excited when she came home than she was before she left. Something I didn't think was possible. It was no trouble at all, Arthur. She really is a lovely girl. Bill tells us you're studying? Molly tried to keep the interrogation tone out of her voice, but it didn't fool the two Weasley wizards in the room. Yes, I plan to go to university next year and am studying for the entry qualifications to do so. I always thought I would study law, but now I'm not so sure. My age would be against me getting a job in that field, and I've also discovered I like teaching. Bill didn't want to influence her decision, but highlighted an option Jenny had probably overlooked. I know a certain goblin who would just love to have someone working for him who understood Muggle law. I think that's what Hermione wants to do too, and she's the smartest witch to enter Hogwarts for many a year. Arthur again tried to get into the conversation before his wife fired off more questions. Well, I know Percy and Penny rave about your lessons, both feel they are learning so much about the Muggle world. Molly, though, was not to be denied the information she craved. I understand you're staying in Kingersea for Christmas. Rather than being in any way intimidated by the question, Jenny's entire face lit up at that. Oh yes, it will be wonderful. Normally it's just Ewan and I celebrating Christmas together. This year we'll be surrounded by friends, and people who we've started to think of as family. Ewan's never had that before, so this is already his best ever Christmas. Seeing him standing there tonight surrounded by friends, and all dressed up to go to a ball. We would have been here earlier, but I must have cried for 15 minutes after they left. Jenny felt her hand being taken, surprised it was the one next to Molly. When Bill left for Hogwarts, I cried for days. I had 6 other children still at home, but my heart was breaking because one of them was missing. His first letter home started the whole process off all over again. It's been the same every September when another one left. The day the twins got on the express, this house felt so empty. When Ewan left in September, I stayed with the McDonalds for a few nights. I had eventually to force myself back into my own home. Bill then took Jenny's other hand. Roy and Mary would have been sorry to see you go, they miss their Natalie too. Molly was now looking directly at her eldest son and smiling. There were tears in the corners of both mothers' eyes, and all could tell her words were heartfelt. It's very hard for a mother to let them go. Children grow up, though, not something any of us can change, or would want to. Where is this university? Both male Weasleys now relaxed. Molly was still going to ask questions, but the last vestiges of timidity had now disappeared. If there was one thing Molly Weasley could recognize, it was a good mother. Jenny Abercrombie fell squarely into that category. That made Jenny all right in Molly's book. Anything else could be dealt with over time. Roger arrived in the corridor outside the room of requirements to find the 3 champions waiting on him. He kissed Fleur's cheek in greeting before providing the French champion with a corsage to wear. Nodding in recognition to the others, he had a question for Victor. Your date not here yet, or have you been stood up? Miss Sapphire allowed me the honor of escorting her to the ball. He had of course noticed Sapphire there. Roger would bet he'd just done the same as everyone else, and assumed she was with Harry. He then addressed his friend in her own language. You look stunning tonight, Sapphire. I hope you will honor me with a dance. A now blushing Sapphire was giggling with excitement. This was the biggest night of her life. Why, thank you, Roger. And of course I'll save you a dance. They chatted for 15 minutes or so, before McGonagall came out to say they were now ready for the champions. Her eyebrows nearly shot into her tight bun of hair when Victor offered Sapphire his arm. Like everyone else, Minerva had assumed that Sapphire was here with Harry. She was just about to tell the goblin female she would need to enter the ballroom now, as it was time for the parade of champions. Minerva was delighted and relieved Mr. Crumb had offered his arm to his date before she'd put her foot right in it. We had decided on ladies first, so Miss Delacour and her date shall lead us off. She will be followed by our other visiting champion, Mr. Crumb, and his date. Centurion Crow and his mate, Miss Granger, will complete the procession. I will lead you in and over to the head table. Centurion, I'm sorry, but Dumbledore is there too. We arranged it so you are both as far apart as possible, and the seating becomes fluid after the first dance. Harry nodded his acceptance, and McGonagall led them in. It gives me great delight to introduce the champions of Beauxbatons, Durmstrang and Hogwarts. The applause was thunderous, and Sapphire sparkled on Victor's arm, her smile as dazzling as her accessories. Her magnificent jewelry had been supplied by the director himself, publicly signifying she had his backing for this event. Harry was behind his oldest friend, and his eyes were busily scanning the hall. He certainly noticed those who had stopped clapping when they spotted who was on Victor's arm, just as he saw all their friends cheering like crazy. When his eyes caught sight of Dumbledore, Harry knew there would be trouble. The old wizard was bloody livid. Dumbledore was out his seat and heading toward the champions' party. Minerva moved to intercept while Augusta Ramus and Madame Maxime were hot on his heels. Out of the corner of his eye, Harry also spotted the Blacks, Tonks, Remus, Padma and Neville all on the move too. This is an insult to the Durmstrang Institute of Magic. I demand this be changed at once. Did you know about this, Minerva? I will not allow our school champion to have a creature on his arm. It's a disgrace. Minerva was just about to rip this old fool a new one, thinking she would concern herself with who the champions were bringing as dates, when she felt herself being brushed aside. Hermione made no attempt to stop him. Dumbledore calling Sapphire a creature meant there probably wasn't any way to stop Harry now. The smack was heard all around the ballroom as Harry backhanded Dumbledore across the face. You will apologize to Sapphire or face my blades. Those are your only options, old man. Seeing the boy in a temper had Albus using all his experience to calm himself and make the best of the opportunity he'd just been presented with. Beating this whelp in a magical duel would certainly go a long way to curbing the goblin influence on their society. I will not apologize for telling the truth, so we will duel. Goblins don't duel, they fight. First blood acceptable to you? Albus just nodded. This was better than he could have hoped for. Victor tried to intervene before this situation got any further. Harry, Sapphire is my date. It should be me fighting for her honor. This earned Victor's smiles from all of the champions' party. Thanks for the offer, but this one is on me. It's a goblin thing, Victor. I am registered within the nation as Sapphire's champion. Anyone trying to get to me through her will face my blades. Hermione was already loosening his waistcoat. Harry, why don't you just wear your tunic to these things? Save all this bother of me having to undress you. Hey Hermione, I thought that was your favorite part. Padma and Neville were now by their side, offering support and continuing Hermione's efforts to dispel Harry's anger. A worried Augusta asked the question that was on all their minds. Centurion, do you intend this fight to be in here? I have the safety of all my students to consider. It was Neville who quickly put her mind at rest. Gran, we fight in this room every day. Hogwarts will keep everyone safe. In this magnificent ballroom setting, it was easy to forget this room could become anything Harry wanted. Albus was in no way alarmed, though slightly confused at the behavior of Harry's friends. There were kisses of support from the girls and slaps of encouragement on the back from the wizards. At no time did any of them display any signs of anxiety over this fight. The Longbottom betrothed witch appeared as if she was barely holding on to her laughter. Black and Lupin were all smiles too. Even his assigned aura bodyguard seemed was time. Albus reminded them what a powerful wizard he was. The floor cleared and Hogwarts herself erected wards around the two combatants. A golden Harry had a shield, knife and sword all poised to attack. His opponent knew what those blades could do. Dumbledore had no intention of letting Harry get close enough to use them. This would be a magical fight, therefore. There really could only be one winner. Albus assumed a classic dueling position, legs spread, right one forward, and he was balanced on the balls of his feet. Miss Granger shouted ready, and Albus was left to assume she said fight. All his senses were shutting down as the pain overtook him. A column of rock, about the width of a bludger, had just shot out the floor and slammed with considerable force into his groin. That it then remained there was about the only thing still holding Dumbledore upright, his knees being more than ready to buckle, with his colourful robes reaching to the floor. None of those watching were aware of this. They just saw Dumbledore struggle to erect a weak shield as Hermione called fight. A quick barrage of spells destroyed that shield before Godric's blade did its work. With one swipe it sliced through Dumbledore's wand, and also whipped off his beard just below his chin. Harry's knife then nicked the old wizard's cheek, drawing blood and ending the fight. Having done its job, the pillar then shot back into the floor just before Harry nudged Dumbledore onto his back. As he crumpled to the floor, Albus may have received the painful message, but he had yet to decipher it. Hogwarts would protect her champion. A wandless Dumbledore was now lying on the floor in a fetal position, blood trickling from what amounted to nothing more than a shaving cut. Albus wasn't caring a jot that the hall had descended into wild cheering, Harry's name being loudly chanted. He felt as if he'd just been violently kicked in the nuts by a centaur. "Sapphire, is your honor satisfied?" A blushing Sapphire knew she had to answer. "Yes, Harry." Harry knelt beside Dumbledore, speaking low, so only the old wizard could hear. "You chose to fight Hogwarts champion in a room she controls. Your second big mistake of the evening. Goblins don't do pranks, but I think my dad would have liked that. Remus and Sirius are certainly laughing their asses off. Hogwarts will always aid her champion if his cause is just, which it clearly was in this case. The behavior you just displayed is no longer acceptable inside Britain. We have changed, but you clearly haven't, old man. It's time for you to leave." Standing back up, Harry once more raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Hogwarts, Dumbledore has decided he doesn't want to stay. Please show him out, but gently, remember his age." Vines grew out of the floor in a direct line from the exit to Dumbledore. They picked the old wizard up and slowly passed him along the floor toward the door. As their load passed, never more than 6 inches off the ground, those vines dissolved back into whence they came, their job done. The entire hall watched in silence, as the former leader of the light was sliding along the floor in a heap, while Harry stood with Hermione buttoning his waistcoat. The significance of this could not be any plainer. There was a new leader of the light in Hogwarts. Sirius couldn't even look at his godson without bursting into more laughter, Remus being only slightly better. Amos wasn't the only one unsure of what they'd just witnessed. Victor got in first though. What just happened? How is this possible? Hermione was smiling at Harry as she lovingly fixed his tie. It was her who gave them their answer. Hogwarts creates this room because Harry asks her to. Training, ice skating, balls. Whatever is needed Hogwarts will supply. Training aside, only a complete idiot would try to fight Harry in here. We all knew that. Dumbledore didn't. Professor McGonagall, I think we're ready now. Fleur took Roger's arm, whispering to her date as everyone returned to their seats. The first morning I stepped into Zee's room. Hermione asked it for somewhere I could change. I just never thought what else it could do. When Sapphire took Victor's offered arm, not a word was said against this from anywhere in the hall. If Albus Dumbledore could so easily be defeated, no one wanted any trouble with Centurion Crow. Madame Maxime was trying to have a quiet word with Augusta, so only half the top table heard. I was listening to what his mate said. Has this happened before? Yes, a few years ago at the Ministry Summer Ball where Harry was awarded his Order of Merlin First Class. Umbridge took umbrage that Harry was dancing with Emma Granger, a muggle. She challenged Harry and then cut her own hand, desperate to then avoid what would have been an embarrassing defeat. Dumbledore was barred from that event. He left Britain only a few months later. He should never have returned. This left Olympe wondering just how long her champion would be in the lead of the tournament. The organizers were all quite pleased with the design of the second task. They would be announcing details and the date after the new year. She watched the Centurion chat with the other two champions and thought it was obvious they would help each other train for this task. The headmistress of Bulbatorn thought that alone would make this tournament a success, no matter who won it. Augustus watched Bella playing with Marvolo as he prepared their Christmas dinner. They may be having rabbit again, but this was easily the best Christmas he could remember. What really sealed it for Augustus was the prospect of many more Christmases to come, and that brought with it the possibility of seeing his little Marvolo grow. Augustus was still working tirelessly alongside their master to try and achieve this aim. Their steady progress was making Augustus more and more optimistic of their chances. Their master's decision to leave Britain after he killed Potter was what really spurred his optimism on. Though, with Potter gone, it wouldn't take long for the whole Gringotts ministry alliance to crumble, especially with Umbridge stirring up trouble within the ministry whenever she could. In just a few years Britain would be ready for his master's return, and their master wouldn't be returning alone. There were still countries in Europe who would support their cause, so their master had decided to embark on a recruiting mission after springing their trap. Potter's death would give their cause the victory they needed to be able to strategically withdraw from Britain with some credibility, and should also provide the springboard to have like-minded witches and wizards once more flocking to the Dark Lord's banner. "Oh, Augustus baby, I think our little wizard just tried to say his first word." He thought their son might be a tad young to be speaking just yet. There was no way though Augustus was going to say that to his mate. And what word would that be? Love. "I'm trying to teach our little genius to say master. I'm positive our little Mervoldo just managed the first bit. He's saying ma." Goldskin was escorted into the director's office. Seeing Barchoke and Master Sharpshard were present too just increased his concern. "I left Sapphire less than half an hour ago. She's fine and had a wonderful time at last night's ball. There was an incident, however, and we're just about to watch some memories of it. The director felt you should be included in this viewing too. The first memory is from friend Longbottom." A relieved Goldskin thanked Barchoke for that news about his daughter's safety, and also the director for considering him. The memory started with Professor McGonagall introducing the champions. All felt a sense of pride at the way Sapphire confidently walked into that hall, only for Dumbledore to try and ruin her evening. While a surge of anger filled the room at Dumbledore's comments, all were impressed with the way Sapphire's many friends reacted, Harry especially. Hearing Victor offering to fight Dumbledore for his daughter's honor impressed Goldskin. Harry saying that he was rested as Sapphire's champion was a complete shock. No wonder the director was confident Sapphire wouldn't face a backlash inside Gringotts over this matter. Letting that news filter out would certainly stop any challenges. The Centurion had easily defeated him in Cairo, and had been holding back at the time. Shapeshard's laughter soon rang around the office. "That old fool is going to fight the Hogwarts champion in his own room. This should be fun. That room did everything but outright attack me when we fought there." None of the quartet missed Dumbledore's expression of pain just as Hermione shouted fight. Watching his body language told all of them where the old wizard was hurting. Dumbledore crumpled to the ground to much cheering from those in the ballroom memory and everyone in the director's office too. Ragnarok, Sharpshard and of course Barchoke all knew they needed Dumbledore to remain at Hogwarts to pass information on to the Dark One. Harry's solution neatly sidestepped any issues that would have resulted from a full-scale fight between these two. After Dumbledore left, Barchoke stopped the memory and replaced the crystal. "This is from friend Patatil. She thought we might like to see it." After their meal the three champions started the evening's dancing off, again to much cheering. Sapphire was sparkling as she waltzed around the room as Victor's partner, then they changed. In a move that appeared practiced, the three couples came together and all the ladies effortlessly and elegantly exchanged dance partners. A clearly happy Sapphire was now dancing with Roger. Barchoke was explaining to everyone they had been friends since meeting in Cairo. The move was repeated, and now she was in Harry's arms, before switching back to their original partners just before the first dance finished. Their display of unity earned a standing ovation from the other students and staff. "I'm looking at this, and still I can't believe it. Your daughter has sore feet this morning from dancing all night. She also has a smile as wide as a Category 1 vault door. She was amongst friends all evening and the Durmstrang champion kissed the back of her hand in thanks for allowing him the honor of escorting her to the ball. All of them from King Gussie who attended last night enjoyed themselves. We're just waiting to see what the prophet makes of this." Ragnarok actually shared Goldskin's views on this ball. He too couldn't quite believe what he was watching. Even the prophet can't dent young Sapphire's stunning success. Your daughter's victory will see a gift from a very grateful director heading her way. Goldskin, Barchoke. Brilliant decision to apprentice her to your department. After this, your department may see a lot more applications to work or apprenticeship there. Sharp shard, I think this calls for grog. He would let his mate watch those memories later. Reinha would be as surprised and delighted to see this as Ragnarok himself was. With Harry not taking part in the wand-weighing ceremony, the Yule Ball was really the press's first chance to get a picture of all the champions posing together, and what a picture graced their front page. Augusta and Madame Maxime were included too, standing at either end of the three champions and their dates. Roger was sitting in the middle with Hermione and Sapphire at either side of him, the three champions proudly standing behind their respective dates. A description of how all three champions had exchanged dance partners during the first dance featured far more prominently in the newspaper article than the fact Dumbledore was forced to leave the ball early. He was apparently yesterday's news. As Roger was sitting alongside Sapphire and Victor standing behind, this was certainly a picture that would make it into her rapidly growing scrapbook. That the press simply accepted Sapphire's right to be there, even on the arm of Victor Crumb, was a massive sign of just how far things had shifted in their country. This was also the signal for another celebration inside Gringotts. The British magical press talking in glowing terms about a picture that contained a French half-giantess, a French Velar goblin, Centurion Crow and his mate alongside one of the country's most prominent purebloods, Madame Augusta Longbottom, was beyond belief. Today, however, any pictures taken would be strictly for the family. Crow's Nest was once more bursting at the seams with people as Remus and Tonks prepared to get married. Tonks had asked both Hermione and Padma to be her bridesmaids as she got married, leading Remus to select Harry and Neville. Remus had actually only made one request for today. He wanted to marry the real Nymphadora Tonks. His bride-to-be agreed to honor that request. The witch in question was being led down the aisle by her father and still easily recognizable to the groom's party, who stood awaiting her arrival. Her hair might be jet black and brushing her shoulders as she walked, and her nose stood a little prouder from her higher cheekbones. It was still Tonks, though. Her husband-to-be's request had also decided the bride's dress dilemma. Tonks was an Auror. It was a huge part of who she was. Therefore she chose to get married in her Auror dress robes, her Order of Merlin, first class, proudly displayed on the breast of those robes. This also neatly solved the problem of what the bridesmaids would wear too. Hermione and Padma choosing their Marauder trainer robes, their silver epaulets and both medals shining brightly against the black dragon skin. Harry and Neville were similarly attired to their mates, while Remus had gone in the complete opposite direction. With Tonks' robes so dark his was snow white, he was hoping his wife-to-be appreciated the gesture. Some might even say prank. The dark creature wore white while the bride was in black. As Ted led his daughter past Sirius, only about half of those present in Crow's Nest heard the Marauder's comment. "Don't worry, Tonks. They're not sheepskin. I wouldn't let him go that far." All three witches had cases of the giggles as Ted handed his daughter over to the waiting Remus. The Reverend Richard soon had things back under control, though he was smiling himself as the ceremony began. Neville, claiming he had to make the last speech in the ministry, saw Harry being elected to do it here. He wasn't nervous, though, as he stood to deliver the best man speech. This was all friends and family. "Hi everyone, I hope you'll excuse me if I don't exactly follow tradition here. This is only the second wedding I've attended. I asked Dan, Sirius and Remus what a best man's speech is supposed to be, and received 3 totally different answers. Getting the feeling I was being pranked, I then consulted an expert. The first thing Reverend Richards told me to do was lose Sirius's joke about the one-eyed witch and the stuttering barman. This led to a lot more laughter than telling the joke would ever have generated. Sirius pretend pout helping that laughter along. Reverend Richards told me the normal procedure was to talk about the bride and groom, preferably telling a few funny stories. This time he was interrupted by 3 simultaneous groans coming from Hermione, Padma, and Neville. Unlike the Reverend, these 3 have first-hand experience of a goblin's sense of humor. I'm told it is an acquired taste, so I'll spare everyone here that humor today. All 3 nodding in agreement also got a few laughs. I met Remus on our island the first summer we holidayed there. It was Remus who taught me the pinky grip that put Lockhart on the ground in the bookstore. Something I will always be grateful for. I have actually spent more time with Tonks though. Or is that Aura Lupin now? I'm keeping the name Tonks, and also taking the name Lupin. It's just the other one I'll be losing. Her mock glare at her parents was simply ignored. They were well used to it by now. Tonks, Lupin. I like that. Anyway, Tonks was with us that terrible day we faced the basilisk, something we were incredibly grateful for. She has also been my ministry bodyguard for the last 18 months, again something we're grateful for. This has given us a first-hand view of the journey these two took to become a couple. Hermione and I were even along on their first date. I'm not too sure just whose body was being guarded by whom that day, however. For some reason this really set Sirius off. His loud laughter soon had others joining in. Remus was mock whispering to his new wife. Now we know why Sirius didn't ask Harry to be his best man. The couple though were wearing wide smiles that nothing was going to shift today. Harry also smiled at the marauder, though this was more predatory in nature. I just hope my Uncle Moony knows what he's let himself in for. We've seen his wife charge Death Eaters and face down Master Ord Moody. I don't know which one was scarier. Without hesitation, Tonks chipped in with her answer. Mad Eye, I just want to wish the couple much happiness, and even though we've considered Tonks' family for a while, officially welcome her to the craziest family in the world. I give you the bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs. Lupin. At that everyone stood and offered their toast to the couple. It was later that evening when Sapphire found herself dancing with her boss. So, young Sapphire, did you discover why my son changed his mind over the ball? Yes. A delighted Barchoke waited on the answer and waited. So why did he change his mind? Oh, I can't tell you that, it's a surprise. You do know you work for me now. Yes, but one day it will be Harry. I could never let him down. This drew a deep chuckle from Barchoke. Outstanding answer, Sapphire. I'm delighted with your work so far, as is the director. I received a letter from my father. He said the entire family is proud of me. Yet all I did was have a great time with friends. Sometimes I feel a bit of a fraud. Seeing his newest recruit wear a frown had Barchoke worried that he might have inadvertently been the cause of it. Did you tell my children you were now working for me? I would hate Harry or Hermione to think I had you spying on them. This was just a bit of fun. They know that, sir. And you might have some others applying for apprenticeships too. Padma and Neville seem keen on leaving Hogwarts after they marry next summer, but not as keen on the university option that Harry and Hermione have their hearts set on. An apprenticeship is something they can at least understand. I have heard Master Pitsley say Padma has a natural talent for potions. That might be an option she would consider. With both of them having friend status, Padma and Neville's options inside Gringotts are extensive, especially with those 2 awards they wear on their robes. I shall have a chat with them to ensure they fully understand what options are available to all 3 of them inside Gringotts. This had Sapphire smiling, and saw her boss gently coming back at her. You have no reason to feel like a fraud. I too am enjoying myself tonight. It doesn't mean we ever stop learning or working to further our cause. You would be happy if Padman and Neville chose to apprenticeship inside Gringotts, because you would get to see more of your friends. Gringotts, though, would also benefit greatly from that. It is also an idea none of us had even considered before you mentioned it. Padma Longbottom apprenticing under Master Pitsley sends out all the right messages, and the name Longbottom should ensure her mastery would be accepted anywhere in the country. Thank you, sir, for explaining that. My apprenticeship means I get to see more of my friends. I love working for you, Ambassador. Victor has invited me to Hogwarts for his Quidditch match, and again for the second task. Hermione is asking Madame Longbottom if I can stay in the castle again, returning home the following day. My son has been asked many times why he puts himself in certain situations. He replies, it's because only he can. You are now in the same position. Who else but you could do what you just said? Perhaps now you may understand your worth to us, and why your family, your nation are so proud of you. I want you to one day be able to stand at my son's side and be treated as an equal. We both know Harry won't accept anything less. You are well on your way to achieving this already. Harry as ambassador and you as his assistant ambassador will be a proud day for all of us. I promise to work my hardest to make sure that happens. As the music finished, and in a rare show of affection, Barchoke took Sapphire's hand and kissed the back of it. I know you will, Sapphire. I know you will. Harry meanwhile had spent the same dance with the new Mrs. Lupin, confirming for the 100th time that they would be fine and wouldn't leave Kinsey without an escort. This saw him receive a kiss on the cheek. What was that for? I hope Mooney's not the jealous type.
That's for everything, Harry.
Hosting our wedding, arranging the honeymoon, being my friend. Tonks, if I had to start listing all the things we had to thank you for, we'd be here all night, something your new husband would certainly object to. We're family. Tonks, no thanks is ever necessary. I know the nation are trying everything to get you in there with us at the end. How could I possibly even begin to thank you for that? With his arm around her waist, Harry started leading Tonks over to where Remus was standing when an idea struck. The final confrontation is coming, but we can't let that rule our lives. The four of us intend to spend the weekend before the final task on the island. I'd like to invite you and Remus along too. The Auror thought she understood what was being said here. Harry confirmed that with his next sentence. That is currently a secret between just the six of us. We want to keep it that way until a lot nearer the time, like the day before. My husband and I accept. I'll even help by saying you four need a break. Normally I would say you were too young. We know that's not the case here. Having that weekend to look forward to might help us focus on what needs to be done, so we can all enjoy many more weekends like that. We intend to be training harder than we ever have before. This is the final push, Tonks, and we will be ready. This seems rather an intense conversation for a wedding. And you're hogging the bride. Sorry, Sirius, just confirming to Mrs. Lupin here. We'll manage without her while she's on the island with Mooney. Sirius danced off with Tonks in his arms. It was another hand on his shoulder that caught Harry's attention. That answer didn't wash with either Sirius or me. Sorry again, Remus, but I can't say any more. Tonks will tell you everything later. You really do know her better than you know me. Something I'm really sorry for, Harry. Kindrika teaches us the past is there, so lessons can be learned from it. Let it go, Remus, and concentrate on the future you have with Tonks. She really is a special lady. What age are you again, Harry? This drew a wry chuckle. It's not the years, Remus. It's the experiences. That day in the chamber changed all of us. Henrika was proposed marriage to the same day. Padma and Neville bonded a few days later, while Tonks began to look at what she really wanted from life. I think that's when she started looking in your direction. I notice you didn't mention your name there, Harry. How did it change you? It took a moment for Harry to answer. Remus, I've never been so scared before or since. Counting Pavati, there were 6 people relying on me getting them out of there alive. I didn't have the luxury of considering myself 12. I was a centurion with a mission that needed to be tackled. That all 7 of us got out of there might qualify for one of those miracle things I've heard Hermione mention. The dance had finished, but Sirius arrived back with a different partner. You two look far too serious. I brought someone to at least cheer one of you up. As the music started for the next dance, a now smiling Harry slipped into Hermione's arms as they took to the dance floor. Both marauders watched the happy couple weave their way around the ballroom. I swore an oath I would protect that boy, Remus. It really doesn't sit well that I can only watch as he prepares for the fight we both know is coming. We also know my wife is going to do everything she can to be right beside them. I intend to pour everything I've got into those wards. Sirius, leaving nothing behind for any fight. Let Dan, Frank or Barchoke shoot the bastards dead. We just need to give them that chance to do so. Sirius could only nod, having little else to offer on the matter. Pauline thought her decision was made. Today just confirmed that decision was the right one. They had been accepted from the moment the Delacour family had set foot in Kingersea, with every new arrival just treating them the same. This wedding was easily the biggest gathering yet, but both her daughters were still having a good time with the friends they were making. Henrika had also confirmed the Blacks would be in Hogwarts for a good few years. Both she and Sirius were pushing through new courses and would want to see them well established before even considering a move. Seeing how her youngest daughter was being treated here and with Avila as one of her professors, they really couldn't send Gabrielle anywhere but Hogwarts. It was something Gabrielle had been dropping broader and broader hints about. Apolline would discuss with her husband about the best time to tell her, preferably before her new friends headed off back home. They were getting ready for bed, when Luna just had to ask her friend something. "Sapphire, why is Harry having such a tough time with me having a boyfriend? I can see he's trying hard, but I thought he liked Colin." Thinking back to the ambassador's words earlier, Sapphire thought this was a perfect example of what Barchoke meant. All she was doing was hopefully trying to make one of her best friends understand their culture a little better, that it might inch goblin-wizard relations along another notch. She considered nothing more than an added bonus. Harry certainly likes Colin, and you're right, he is trying hard. It's a culture thing. Luna, we goblins don't have boyfriends or girlfriends. Hermione told me when they got together Harry had to ask Sirius for advice. He couldn't offer her a formal courtship, otherwise it would have been seen as him choosing to be a wizard. He hadn't considered asking her to be his girlfriend, because that's just not something a goblin would do. If you don't form those type of relationships, how do you know someone is the one you want to marry and spend the rest of your life with? Both girls were now in their beds, though it would be a while yet before they were ready for sleep. This was important to Luna. Her relationship with Harry had become one of the cornerstones of her life. She needed to understand him better so they could both preserve something that was very dear to them. "Well, you've seen that we have friends, that's just the same. We can also be attracted to those friends. Roger is one of the nicest people I know. Fleur is discovering that for herself. When we goblins find our mate, though, it goes way beyond any attraction. I'm told it feels like that person becomes part of you, that you simply must have them in your life. We then have the bonding ceremony so everyone can see exactly how compatible the couple are. It seems a bit like you leave everything up to chance. What if you never find your mate?" This saw Sapphire shrug her shoulders in answer. "There are a few people who do that, but they seem happy enough. We goblins are what you would consider a monogamous society, Luna. We have one mate, and that mate is for life. Our own bodies will tell us when we've met that mate. The bonding ceremony will confirm that this is really the one. Even although they are younger than we would consider normal, Harry and Hermione are proof that the system works." Luna couldn't really argue with that. Padma and Neville could also be placed in the same category. 2. "Okay, I understand that, but not why Harry's struggling with me having Colin as a boyfriend. You must know that Harry considers you family." This brought a smile and a nod from Luna that was the very relationship she was determined to protect. A goblin male has protecting family instilled into them since birth. Harry wasn't born a goblin, but he certainly is one at heart. We are both lucky enough to be considered family by him. That means Harry will do everything in his power to protect us for the rest of our lives. Him being a centurion just magnifies that inbuilt trait, something Hogwarts herself was first to recognize when she made Harry her champion. He's there to represent and protect her students. Sapphire tried to ensure Luna understood the next bit. "If it had been you, Marco, had gotten into that cupboard, Harry would have slit open his gut and spread his entrails all over the corridor. Nothing or no one would have been able to stop him. Hermione wouldn't even have tried. She would understand his honor could accept no other result. There seems to be a gender imbalance in your culture where witches who have a few boyfriends are frowned upon while a wizard with lots of girlfriends would almost be revered. In our society, both would be shunned equally. Being in a relationship and still dabbling with another is one of the biggest blunders you can make in our community. You forgo your honor and no one can trust your word. What is there left?" Luna's voice was barely above a whisper as she answered Sapphire. "Colin would never hurt me." "I know, Luna, and so does Harry. You said yourself Harry's trying hard. We can all see that. He's trying to walk the thin line between letting you live your own life as a witch, while protecting you as his goblin honor demands. In many ways I'll have it easier. When I meet my mate, that mate will understand and accept Harry's position in my life, just as Harry will accept him as my mate. I've been so wrapped up in getting to spend Christmas with Colin I never realized I was hurting Harry in his own house too. Luna, any fool could see how happy you've been over the holidays, and Harry is certainly no fool. Seeing you so happy is the one thing that will have Harry accepting Colin as your boyfriend. Your happiness will be Harry's first concern. Colin leaves tomorrow. Try and find some time to sit down with Harry and talk about this. Remember, all this is as new to Harry as it is to you. You'll also be helping Natalie, Pauline and Orla too. Pauline already has a big brother, but you told me how Harry reacted to her after the attack last New Year. She's definitely someone he considers family too. Harry keeps saying goblins are a simple race, but I agree with Hermione, this is bloody complicated. Thanks, Sapphire. I don't know what I would do without you. We're friends, Luna, that's what friends are for. Both girls chatted away for a while, glad they had that out in the open. While Christmas had been wonderful in Kingassee, effortlessly extending to cover the wedding too, New Year had fallen a bit flat. The McDonalds, Creeves and Abercrombies had left the day after the wedding, leaving those staying in Kingassee rather reflective of what happened at this time last year. It really was quite difficult to celebrate on the anniversary of the biggest battle fought against the dark in decades. That everyone at Kingassee, bar their French visitors, had fought in that battle left the celebrations rather muted. Harry was drawing comfort from his chat with Amelia. It would seem as if their strategy was working. While the trio of criminals were busy working on this, they weren't attacking anyone else. His talk with Luna had also provided comfort. Luna had sat and explained as best she could how relationships worked in her society. Starting off with meeting someone you liked, becoming boyfriend-girlfriend and taking that relationship along slowly to see if it led any further as they got older. Neither had any idea if this relationship would grow past the stage it was at now. Both she and Colin were just taking things as they came for the moment, simply happy to be in each other's company. It was with heavy hearts, though, they boarded the Hogwarts Express to return to the castle, and it wasn't really because they were saying goodbye to their families. They would see them again shortly at the second task. The train speeding toward Hogwarts was more a symbol of the final confrontation rushing at them, yet the summer holidays seemed such a long way away. The four understood that if they didn't defeat Voldemort, they might never see Kingassee again. Harry was counting the second task as nothing more than a mechanism which would allow them to celebrate their father's birthday. While he would be careful during the task, he trusted those around him not to let anything untoward slip through their defenses. In the meantime, they would be training like never before. Their extra defense lessons would now see them fight 3 auras twice a week. Everything was now being tailored to helping them survive the final conflict. The next 5 or 6 months was going to be brutal, both in terms of training and what was waiting at the end of it. More and more it was beginning to appear as if their special weekend away on the island might be the only thing they had to look forward to this term. If anything, Dolores was in a worse state than when Albus saw her last. Again they were in a private room inside the Hog's Head. They came again, and that bitch Lestrange was in a rage because I didn't have everything they'd asked for. You have to help me, Albus. Otherwise I have no other choice but to approach Bones. I won't survive another visit if I don't have everything they want. Sliding a package over the table to the distraught Dolores, Albus used his most calming voice, his entire demeanor broadcasting that she had nothing to fear while Albus Dumbledore was on her side. Here is the last remaining book they requested, and all the details for the second task. While Krum is now a Hogwarts student, he's still representing Durmstrang. They had to give me all the details, and they will have to do the same for the final task too. The gratitude Dolores was displaying might have been embarrassing to anyone else on the receiving end of it, but not Albus. Especially since he had engineered the entire situation. Dolores certainly wouldn't have been so grateful if she'd known he'd had the final book in his possession for weeks, or that he'd deliberately withheld it from her. He needed Dolores to understand she had no other option but to rely on him. Albus Dumbledore always got the job done. After she had gushed for at least 5 minutes, he was forced to intervene. Dolores, you need to listen carefully. Everything so far points to you being given another job to do before the final task. What you need to impress upon them is you might not get a great deal of warning of exactly when this task will take place. Their security is also very tight. You will need to know precisely what this job is in order to plan your way around that increased security. Albus, I don't think I can. My dear Dolores, all you will be doing is handing the entire job over to me. Even so, you need to buy me the time needed to accomplish whatever they ask you to do. Riddle and Rockwood are extremely clever wizards who have obviously been working on this for a very long time. They will understand you need some of that time to hold up your end of their scheme, otherwise the entire thing could be for nothing. They don't risk being caught out if the organizers call the final task at very short notice. It's less strange, Albus. She terrifies me. That witch would kill you as soon as look at you. And the other two will keep her in check. You are vital to their plans, Dolores. Without you they have nothing. Remind them of that if you have to. I promise when this is over you'll never have to see them again. If they survive the battle and are captured, the Ministry has already sentenced all three of them to death. This seemed to strengthen Dolores' resolve, though there was one more thing she needed to know. What about Crow? I have studied this problem from every angle, yet still see no way of saving the boy. It was a once more resolute Dolores who nodded. Her acceptance of that, to see the end of Crows and Listend, she would do as Albus suggested. Her body carried scars that could be accredited to both of them. Dolores Umbridge, though in the end would have her revenge. The three champions were in the High Inquisitor's office at Hogwarts, along with the task setters and their advisor Henrika. Tonks, now as the Ministry's main organizer for the tournament, was giving the champions the rundown on just what the second task was. Due to some quite blatant bias amongst some former judges, this task will be slightly different. Half your marks will still be awarded from the judges, the other 50% being determined by the time each contestant sets for completing the task. The quickest will automatically receive 20 points, 17 and 15 being awarded for second and third. Each of the judges can then award a maximum of 5 points, meaning there are 40 points available for the winner, while third could still see themselves earn 35. All three champions already thought this was a fairer system and said so. Now the task is in two distinct parts, needing you to nominate 2 volunteers. It will be up to each individual champion what order they tackle each part in. Let's just call them ground and air at the moment. You will start on a small platform in the stadium and each route leads you to the castle. On the ground each champion will have to fight their way through various obstacles to reach their volunteer waiting at the castle for them. Tonks was deliberately staring at Harry as she said the next bit. There will be a clearly marked safe passage at the side of the course. You and your volunteer will use this to make your way as quickly as possible back to the stadium. The flying obstacle course is basically the same idea. Only you need to pick your volunteer up from atop the astronomy tower and fly back along the other safe passage to the stadium. Only when you and both your volunteers are back on the platform does the task end. Like the first task, you will go individually. Flora, Victor and then Harry will be the order. Any questions? Victor was thinking he would need a volunteer who was a fast runner, and another who was light. 2 names popped into his head. I would like to choose Cedric and Sapphire. Understanding at once why Victor had made his choices, Fleur used the same method to make her own. I will have Roger and Gabrielle, Hermione and Padma. Can I ask if the rules state whether a broom is allowed? Harry's question was met by puzzled looks from those not in the know. Madame Maxine was first to answer. Of course a broom is allowed. How else would one do this? Forgive me, madame. I just wondered if the rules specified a broom, or could they mean each champion was allowed one additional object of their choice? The largest person in the room just shrugged her shoulders at that. All champions must pass through certain points at each challenge. Using something like a port key would disqualify you. Providing you do Z's, I have no objection to Z's rule being one item. This saw Harry smile. Thank you, Madame Maxime. I was penalized in the first task for not putting on a show. I intend to rectify that this time. I can do no less, since it will be my father's birthday. Murd, we are in trouble. Fleur found agreement from her Bulgarian counterpart. Exactly what I was thinking. Excitement was rife inside Hogwarts. Today was the first Quidditch match to be played in the new stadium. If that wasn't a big enough incentive to get excited about, Victor Crumb would be playing too. Factor in that there would also be loads of parents here to see the match, and the level of excitement at breakfast was perhaps understandable. Ginny didn't seem to be sharing that excitement, however, as she slipped in beside Luna and Colin at the Ravenclaw table. Mind if I have breakfast with you guys? Between Ron threatening to throw up everything he's ever eaten because of his nerves, and Lavender then slobbering all over him in the name of trying to keep Ron calm, I couldn't eat a bite over there. My teeth gnash every time I hear her squeak 1-1 at him. Why is Ron nervous? Shaking her head, Ginny answered that ridiculous question. Hermione, he's playing against Victor Crumb today. Okay, everyone knows my knowledge of Quidditch could hardly be called extensive, but Ron's a keeper while Victor's a seeker. They may be flying in the same bit of sky, Ginny, but the only way Victor will be anywhere near Ron is if the snitch thing flies up the leg of those ridiculous trousers they wear. Padma's knife and fork hit her plate. Well, that's me done eating. Just the thought of Victor searching through Ron's breeches for a little golden ball has put me off food for the rest of the day. There were spit takes being done up and down the table as Ravenclaws discovered they couldn't eat or drink while laughing at the same time, purely out of academic interest. Padma was rather relieved to notice that even Avila couldn't pull off having pumpkin juice spurting out her nose with any degree of elegance. Roger was choking with laughter himself while rubbing his girlfriend's back. The only good thing to come out of New Year, as he'd asked Fleur on the stroke of midnight. After getting her breath back from laughing, Ginny managed to answer Hermione again. Don't let Ron hear you say that. He's built this match up until it's a battle between him and his hero. Yeah, right. Well, we don't need to be Sapphire to work out the odds on how that contest is going to go. Harry interrupted his mate. Just in case you do, Sapphire's here. With father. Hermione was out her seat in a flash. All thoughts to do with Quidditch already forgotten about. They were all soon given a reminder though. There was quite the delegation visiting this morning, Bill being accompanied by his father Percy, Penny and Jenny. Greetings were being exchanged before Ron burst into the group, dragging Lavender with him. Dad, Percy, you're here to see my first game. Sorry son, we have a meeting first. Your mum will be there from the start, and we'll be along as soon as we can. Ron felt the red mist descending but managed to shake his anger off. It was obvious this meeting involved Harry, and without Harry a certain Ron Weasley wouldn't be playing Quidditch today. Far less going up against Victor Crumb. He couldn't quite hide his disappointment though. That's fine, Dad. Just make it whenever you can. This saw Barchoke intervene. We shall hold the part of our meeting that concerns your father first, letting him get to your game as quickly as possible. Wearing his first smile of the day, Ron bowed to the goblin the way he'd seen Harry do. Thank you, Ambassador. This is my first ever match, and it would mean a lot for my father to be there. Lavender was then dragged back to the Gryffindor table. Ron felt ready to tackle some breakfast now. Arthur was left standing with his arms still around his daughter but his chin now almost hitting the floor. Jenny's arm was around Ewan and the mother could see something was bothering her son. It didn't take long to discover what it was. With Victor now being in our house, Hufflepuff are going to support Durmstrang today. Bill was a Gryffindor though, and 3 of his brothers are playing today. The boy's blonde hair was soon being ruffled by the eldest Weasley brother. Don't you worry about that, just go to the match with your friends and have a good time. Barchoke had signaled for Tonks to join them. Luna led Sapphire over to the Ravenclaw table, while Ewan and Natalie led Jenny to Hufflepuff. Everyone else headed off to the room for their meeting. When they were all seated, Barchoke indicated for Arthur to start. The Muggle government didn't take too well to being told we would look after this matter ourselves. They're really struggling over your ages, and you being so heavily involved in this. They're asking if a representative can meet with you and possibly your parents. Even the suggestion that you 4 are somehow being coerced into this has Amelia, Amos and the minister absolutely raging. The 4 were looking at each other for suggestions, when Tonks exerted her bodyguard authority. If they want a meeting then we'll hold it here. I'm not chancing them trying to kidnap these 4. For their own good, of course. Hogwarts won't let anyone touch Harry in this room. That's better than any security we could come up with. Harry was objecting to that plan on slightly different grounds. We don't want to be sneaking people in and out of Hogwarts too often. The last thing we need is Dumbledore getting suspicious. We intend to continue needling him so he's kept off balance. By all means bring this person to Hogwarts, but do it on the day of the second task. All the family will certainly be here that day. This presented another problem though, one that Hermione picked up on immediately. Not all of them know what's going on, and that's the way we want it to stay. Why have Luna, Susan or Hannah worrying over this when there is nothing they can do about it? Hermione aimed her question at their father. I'm assuming Sapphire now knows since she works for you. Our department are heavily involved in this. She simply couldn't work there and not know. Jenny of course has no idea what's happening, and I think we would all agree that's for the best. Neville, please congratulate your grandmother on an astute piece of negotiating. That was a masterstroke she pulled to get her ball. Arthur was running the current suggestions through his mind and liking what he was coming up with. I could sit with this representative during the tasks. I would need your help keeping your mother at the other end of the stadium. However, Bill and Percy quickly agreed to that. After the task, this representative could then meet with the people involved. Those meetings would have to be short. It's Father's birthday. I won't let anything interfere with that. Harry's declaration brooked no argument. They had gone to a lot of trouble to get their father here on his birthday. They weren't about to then waste that by sitting in some meeting. With that part agreed upon, Arthur headed off to watch 3 of his sons play Quidditch for Gryffindor. Barchu could then bring those remaining up to date on the Gringotts side of things. Finding a method of bypassing the wards is not looking promising. We're basically trying to build a low-key talisman, something that has been taboo in our society for centuries. It doesn't sit well with our people that they are trying to discover methods of bypassing the very things that protect us. There is also the fact that these attempts would usually be enough to see heads rolling along the floor. The director has called a halt to the research, while berating himself for having that one we confiscated destroyed. Harry hadn't really expected any other news. Gringotts wouldn't be safe while one of them existed. Destroying the talisman was the right thing to do, the only thing to do. That Neville agreed with Harry surprised no one. That he spoke so passionately about it did. Harry's right. Can you imagine what would happen if one of those devices fell into the hands of someone like Riddle? It's far better to know our families are safe, and then rely on Amelia getting those wards down. I also think we need to know when the final task is. With Gran, Tonks and Amos on the panel, they should be able to decide it amongst themselves, long before involving Madame Maxime and making it official. Padma could see where her Neville was coming from. With this, she just hoped he was looking forward to the weekend before that task, as much as his betrothed was. Blood bonding was traditionally done as part of a couple's wedding ceremony. Neither she nor Hermione had been able to find any information on couples undergoing the ceremony years before actually getting married. Padma wasn't sure whether the bonding played any part in her feelings. Perhaps it was the extreme danger they knew they would be facing shortly. Something, though, was playing havoc with her hormones. Neville just needed to smile at her and she was ready to rip the shirt off his back. Only hearing from Hermione that she was the same, with Harry of course kept Padma on an even keel. Agreeing with Neville that was a good idea saw Barchoke. Move on to the next matter. Since Harry has announced to everyone that day is my birthday, I really have to be seen inside the stadium. Ramro's taking my place in the roof. You'll again have 3 fathers protecting you, and none will hesitate to put a bullet into any threats. All our intelligence and analysis is pointing to a portkey for the last task, but we won't be taking any chances on the 29th either. Umbridge has passed her latest package to Riddle. We're waiting to see what he gets back to her with. His father not being one of the shooters didn't bother Harry in the slightest. With both girls going to be involved in this task, he was certainly happy to put his trust in that particular trio to keep them safe. The ambassador's attention now turned to Tonks. Barchoke then gave out the best news he had for them. Tonks, we think your portkey can be adapted to take you to wherever Harry is. The portkey's blood binding passing straight through any wards. The room had provided 2 large sofas for the meeting. Tonks was currently sitting between Padma and Hermione, their respective partners on either side of them. Her arms shot out and hugged both girls to her. All 3 had tears in their eyes. Thank you, Barchoke. You have no idea how much this means to me. I'll tell you what it means to me. Tonks, the chances of these 4 getting through this just took a huge jump in the right direction. From the way Padma and my daughter are clinging on to you, they believe that too. That might be news you want to pass on to Amelia and Mr. Weasley. He can now tell this Muggle representative we have a responsible adult with us. A smiling Padma may have been wiping tears from her cheeks, but that didn't mean she was going to let such an opportunity slip by. Stretching the truth a bit there, Harry. Tonks, a responsible adult. Bill had the last word, though. If she's going to be in this fight, then it's time she started training with you four. And there's no time like the present." A Hogwarts elf appearing with her dueling robe gave Mrs. Lupin some idea of what she'd just volunteered for. Harry kissed Hermione, hugged Padma, Sapphire and a giggling Gabrielle before picking up his broom case to wait on Fleur, saying cheerio to her younger sister. Watching the French champion smile as Padma and Sapphire took Gabrielle by the hands and walk away with Professor Snape was a massive turnaround from the last task. All three champions were looking forward to this. They left Hermione, Cedric and Roger at the main door of Hogwarts, with Professor Sprout while Master Flitwick escorted the champions to the stadium. Their route was currently under canvas, so none of the champions could glimpse what awaited them. Filius explained that the canvas would be removed, so the crowd could then see, since this would become the marked safe route for their ground hostages to get to the stage. Filius shook all their hands as he left them in the changing room. A changing room that this time didn't have silencing charms on it. Hearing how your fellow champion performed was not considered an advantage for the second task, since they all knew what they would be facing. Fleur was excited rather than scared this time. She kissed both her fellow champions on the cheek just before leaving, crediting Harry for her change in attitude. "I decided to take a friend's advice, just go out there and do my best." While waiting on Fleur's attempt at the course to start, Victor nodded toward Harry's case. "I see you decided to go with a broom. Now, Victor, that would be telling." Graham Cole thought he'd seen and heard it all. For the last 28 years, the psychologist had been working more and more for the government. It all started pretty innocuously, assessing Foreign Office staff for overseas embassy postings. As his reputation for getting it right grew, so did his security clearance. He now worked almost exclusively for the country's security services, assessing assets before and after they were allocated sensitive assignments. He was renowned for his cool and calm manner, no matter what he heard. At the moment, Graham Cole's cool head was in imminent danger of exploding from trying to process what was all around him. It had all begun when that Arthur fellow had asked him to touch an old boot. Humoring this strange request saw Graham transported from Surrey to Scotland in an instant, and things had just gotten weirder from there. Graham was here to discover why these people thought it was acceptable to let 4 children fight 3 deadly terrorists. All his preconceived ideas, though, had vanished by the time he was standing on Scottish soil, in front of the most magnificent castle he'd ever laid eyes on. The stadium that was their destination didn't look too shabby either. The food stalls were familiar territory. The little creatures serving the food, though, were a complete mystery to him, as was a good percentage of the audience. Only after being led to his seat in the stadium did Graham realize he was now surrounded by some of the very people he had hoped to meet. The name Emma Granger finally kicking his brain back into gear. The woman was holding a baby in her arms, and made no attempt to hide her hostility. Hostility that was aimed in his direction. "Mrs. Granger, I understand you and your husband are dentists. Where is your husband? Will he be joining us?" Sirius had erected a charm that meant anyone trying to listen into the group's conversation would just hear a faint buzzing sound. Knowing it was safe to talk, Emma didn't hold back, indicating Smitor and Alice, who were also part of the group. She told Graham where their menfolk were. "All 3 of our husbands are currently concealed in the stadium roof, armed with rifles and ready to blow the head off these terrorists if they dare to show their faces here today. We will do whatever it takes to protect our sons and daughters, and Dan and I especially resent our own government insinuating otherwise." Seeing she apparently represented the view of everyone present, Graham decided honesty was not just his best policy here. It was the only thing that stood any chance of him receiving the information he'd been sent to gather. "Mrs. Granger, you of all people must know how strange this is for us. We simply don't understand the situation. I'm hoping it can be explained to me today." Burchoke, Ragnok, Rainier, Amelia, Ramus, Neville and the Blacks completed the group that surrounded Arthur and Graham. It was Burchoke who took up the explanation. "The information you were given on the Potterkillers is relatively accurate, though not complete. A prophecy was made that claimed a child would be born with the power to defeat Voldemort, not one for taking chances. This so-called Dark Lord acted to ensure this prophecy could never come to pass. He murdered both Harry's parents, but when he used the same curse on baby Harry, his curse rebounded and destroyed Voldemort's body. This unfortunately left Harry an orphan, one that I immediately adopted, and I am prouder than I could ever put into words of my son. Sirius then took over the narrative. Voldemort is such a sick puppy. He had delved deeply into the dark arts in an attempt to make himself immortal. He was partially successful with his efforts in that he didn't die that night. Those measures have been gradually stripped away and he's now mortal. The bastard is still fixated on killing my godson though. He set this entire scenario up as an elaborate trap, not knowing we're monitoring his every move. If only we knew his location, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. He would already be dead. Mr. Cole, my husband and I were Aurors, almost a cross between your police and a soldier. We both fought Voldemort in the last war. There is no way on this earth we want our Neville involved in any of this. We all want to see this conflict end so people can get on with just living their lives. This is currently the only option available for achieving that outcome. That these criminals are concentrating all their efforts on this attempt is also the only reason why your people aren't up to their armpits in dead bodies. And these four know this. Graham switched his attention to the boy, though he used the term boy in the loosest possible sense. This young man physically appeared much closer to 16 or 17 rather than his reported age of 14. His eyes though seemed to belong to someone much older, eyes that were constantly scanning his surroundings. Graham didn't miss that his hand was also on the hilt of what appeared to be a sword. And what do you think of this, Neville? The shrug of his shoulders would be recognized by parents of teenagers the world over. Graham was merely being humored here. Neville apparently had far more important things on his mind. Voldemort wants Harry dead. He'll have to go through us first to get to Harry. It's as simple as that. Surely though, that terrible task shouldn't be left to the four of you. Graham understood he'd made a mistake when the teen's steely gaze now fixed on him. Instead of asking stupid questions, open your eyes and really see what's right in front of you. Amelia has this place flooded with Aurors, while Director Ragnarok has warriors and centurions all around us. Those three bastards turn up today and we won't have to lift a finger. It will be all over in seconds. We don't think he'll come today though. Otherwise I wouldn't be wasting my time talking to you. They all then heard the real reason for Neville's anger. Our parents are having a hard enough time dealing with this. They don't need outsiders making the situation worse. I'll give you some free advice, however. Upset our girls today, and Harry will kick you out of the castle as quickly as your government withdrew your offer of help. Our previous deeds see us recognized as adults in both our societies. If yours can't or won't accept that, tough luck. Just stay out of our way. Alice had her hand on his arm now. Easy, son. You just said it yourself. Nothing will tell them today. Neville merely nodded, his eyes returning to scanning for any signs of trouble. Graham never got to say any more as a stunningly beautiful woman made her way onto the small stage, the announcer letting him know she was the French champion. Watching as she climbed onto her broom destroyed every myth about witches he'd ever heard. The countdown was loud with the entire crowd being whipped up by the announcer. Reaching 0 saw her shoot off that stage like a rocket. Not for the first time, Graham's chin was resting on his chest as this blonde bombshell zoomed over, under and between obstacles, all while flying hazards continually tried to knock her out of the air. It was a breathtaking display of aerial acrobatics that would make the RAF's Red Arrow's display team appear as if they weren't really trying. Passing through the last obstacle saw her swerve onto the tallest tower in the castle, picking up a passenger who could only be her younger sister. Blonde hair streaked behind the siblings, like a victory pennant as the broom was now piloted along a protected route at breakneck speed, coming to a screaming halt on the stage as the crowd were now going crazy. Her task though was only half done, as she leapt off the stage with her wand now in her hand. Graham at least recognized what this was. There were large boulders dotted between the stadium and the castle, some offering concealment for animated soldiers that attacked. Fleur had to subdue them, fighting her way through to her second volunteer. As she reached Roger, Professor Sprout shouted, "Go!" This released Roger to act. He grabbed Fleur's hand as they raced for the stadium to finish the task. "One last push, love. Gabrielle's waiting on us. You were magnificent." Needing what breath she had for the final sprint, Fleur didn't answer her boyfriend, but instead gave everything she had left to the run. The crowd were roaring her home, and a hyper Gabrielle was jumping up and down on the stage to encourage her sister to even greater efforts. Roger's arm around her waist swept Fleur up the steps and onto the stage, where both were immediately engulfed by a crying Gabrielle. Her little sister's wide smile, though, told everyone these were happy tears. To Fleur, that was worth all the effort she had just expended. Roger and Gabrielle's arms were the only thing currently keeping Fleur on her feet. She couldn't help but think Harry was right. Neither scores or time mattered at the moment. Fleur was happy simply knowing she'd done her very best. The entire stadium was still on its feet applauding her efforts, the crowd only quieting down to see what marks were awarded. When Tonks Armis, Augusta and a very proud Olympus all awarded 5s, the highest mark they could give, the applause became thunderous. Fleur was being led away by a beaming Roger and Gabrielle, with Madame Pomfrey needing do nothing more than dispense a mild pick-me-up potion as they headed to the seats reserved to watch Victor and Harry's attempts. Both girls spotted their parents in the crowd. Their mother and father were still on their feet and applauding like crazy. Graham couldn't help but comment on the reactions of those he was sitting with. "I thought this was a competition. You seemed rather pleased that the French champion did so well." Emma soon put him straight. "Roger is one of Harry and Hermione's best friends, while the Delacour family spent Christmas with us in Kingersea. Sapphire's taking part in the next task, and she is certainly someone considered family by most of us sitting here." An angry Remus indicated one of the judges to Graham. "That lady is an Auror, and has been Harry's full-time ministry bodyguard since the Azkaban breakout. She is also now my wife. We married at Harry's Kingersea estate over the Christmas holidays and spent what was left of those holidays honeymooning on his private island. You better believe we consider all 4 of these teenagers family. Thanks to some outstanding work by Director Ragnar's people, my wife is going to be in this fight with them. If there was a way to get any more of us in there from the start, don't you think we'd be taking it?" It was unusual for Sirius to be a calming influence, but that's what he needed to do here. A steadying hand on his best friend's shoulder reminded Remus, they were all in this together. Surely this asshole could see how much this was costing the family. It was Henrika's turn to let this man know their views. She held her daughter in her arms as her emotions added weight to her words. Harry is Astrid's godfather, Remus's wife her godmother, Jamie is Harry and Hermione's brother, while Neville and Padma are his godparents. What you need to understand is that to Voldemort and his Death Eaters, both these beautiful children are nothing more than vermin. Purely due to their circumstances of birth, he wouldn't hesitate to kill them both. We fight to protect our children, these 2 here and those yet to be born. The verbal assault, that's really the only way Graham could think of this, was temporarily halted by the arrival of the Bulgarian champion. Whatever his final report to his waiting superiors concluded, he was already certain of one thing. This was a very close-knit family who were clearly hurting from this horrendous decision. Any thoughts of the children being coerced in the slightest way to do this was simply a non-starter. All these adults clearly didn't want their children anywhere near this. It would appear as if they had no other option for stopping this homicidal madman. One thing even his government was adamant about. This maniac and his followers had to be stopped. Having only seen one person fly a broom before, Graham was in no way an expert on the subject. He didn't need to be, though, to instantly tell the Bulgarian was even quicker on a broom than his French counterpart had been. He was reminded of slalom skiing and how the true experts could shave a little off their times by taking a slightly tighter line through the gates and maintaining every ounce of speed they could. The crowd were cheering like mad as he shot through the last gate and took aim for the tower. He hardly seemed to slow down as the goblin female jumped on the back of his broom and the pair streaked down the marked route to the stage. Victor dismounted the broom at a run, Sapphire's encouragement ringing in his ears. His training with Harry and his friends was now paying off. Not only did he feel fitter than at any time in his life, he had also practiced similar scenarios to this in that fantastic room Harry controlled. It seemed like no time at all before Victor and Cedric were racing down the safe route to reach the stage and stop the clock. To great cheers, Victor completed the course 8 seconds faster than Fleur. Turning to his girlfriend, Roger didn't see the disappointment reflected there he'd expected. Instead, Flora's expression was almost one of awe. I got within 8 seconds of Victor. This saw her receiving a kiss from her boyfriend. When I said you were magnificent, I was talking about your efforts today, and not just about you in general. Fleur, then returning Roger's affections, saw Gabrielle sigh. I cannot wait to come to Hogwarts. With all the judges already awarding Fleur 5s for her efforts, there was no hesitation in awarding Victor the same score. He had certainly earned it. As the applause finally began to die down, the 6 friends were all now congratulating each other on their efforts. While waiting on Harry's arrival in the stadium, it was now common knowledge that Harry had promised to put on a show. The crowd were expectantly waiting on this show starting. It was in these few moments of silence Amelia made her opinion known to the representative of the Muggle government. Mr. Cole, taking these lunatics down is the job of my department, one I can assure you we intend to fulfill. Voldemort is going to try and sneak a device to Harry like the one you used to get here today. This will take Harry right into a supposed trap. His friends anticipated this though and took measures to ensure they would be at Harry's side when this happened. I don't mind admitting I cried tears of joy when I was informed our goblin friends had managed to include Aura Lupin in there too. Sorry Remus, but we all know her being there swings the odds more in our favor. Remus could only nod to acknowledge Amelia was right. His whole world, however, was now going to be in this fight. He just didn't know how he was going to survive if they didn't. What we need from you, Mr. Cole, is to inform your government we have no intention of letting them fight this battle for us. Harry is using himself as bait to lead us to Voldemort. Their job is then to survive until we can get there and take care of it. Since these 5 are exceptionally gifted, and I intend for the time involved to be under a minute, you can perhaps get some idea of why we're backing this. If we had a safer option, I can assure you we would be taking it. There was silence from the group now as Harry entered the stadium. Graham had to admit the first impression Harry made on him was certainly not that of a 14-year-old boy, dressed in a tunic that clearly displayed some kind of rank and with a sword strapped to his back. The word gladiator was the first thing that came to his mind. An expectant hush fell over the stadium as Harry sat his case on the stage. Victor had easily won both Quidditch matches against Hogwarts opposition. No one had really expected anything else. He was currently in the lead here too, but this time his opposition was the Hogwarts champion, Harry Crow. As Lee started counting Harry down, you could almost taste the expectation in the air as the crowd screamed the descending numbers along with the announcer. As they got to 3, Harry opened his case and removed something that clearly wasn't a broom. It only took a few seconds for everyone to discover what this item was. At 0, a now golden Harry jumped off the stage and began with the ground course. The first dueling dummy that jumped out was blasted right back as the pump-action shotgun claimed its first victim. The second one fared even worse as it went down missing its head. The vast majority of the crowd had now seen guns being fired, at tiny clay discs though. Watching what this weapon could do to an opponent temporarily hushed the crowd as Harry proceeded to make mincemeat of the ground course. Victor was using the lull in noise to ask Sapphire a very pertinent question. How is he going to rescue Padma with that thing? Wait and see, Victor. Wait and see. The smirk she was wearing told the Bulgarian he'd already lost the second task. With the gun now empty, Harry dropped the weapon and his sword dealt with the last 2 remaining automated opponents. Without using any magic, he soon reached Hermione. Ready to go, love?
What kept you?
With that she raced past him before leaping into the air. Hover, however, was doing nothing of the sort. The Kestrel was flying down the safe route marked for their return. She was instantly joined by Swift as the crowd went wild. It was Hermione who touched down on the stage while Swift deliberately flew around her before tackling the second part of the task. The obstacles were laughable to the bird and, being so small, Swift didn't trigger any of the automated defenses. Severus was up on the tower with Padma awaiting Harry and had instantly figured out what was going on here when the other 2 transformed. It would seem you are about to be part of this show. Make it good, Miss Patel, make it something they will always remember. Padma was now standing on the very edge of the tower with her arms spread wide. Oh, we intend to, Professor. As soon as the Centurion passes over you, I will call your release. You are good to go." Padma did indeed make it look superb. As soon as the professor said that word, she dived off the tallest tower Hogwarts had to offer. The crowd that had been cheering only a second ago were now screaming in horror. Those screams became ones of relief, and then amazement as they watched the third person today change into a bird. The speed that Padma had generated from diving off the astronomy tower carried Saber most of the way to the stage and left Swift barely able to keep up. Hermione stood on the stage with her arms spread as Harry performed his favorite form of landing. With Saber transforming into Padma on the stage, Swift landed on Hermione's chest and Harry soon had his lips locked with his mate. The entire stadium was on its feet, going absolutely crazy at what they had just witnessed here today. Green sparks coming from the tower, and the entrance informed the four judges that, like the other two champions, Harry's rescues had met with the rules of the competition. The judges again were all happy to award Harry maximum points. They really had no other option. His time was easily the fastest, making him the outright winner. Roger was too busy having a playful go at Sapphire to worry about any scores at the moment. "You might have warned us. I nearly had a bloody heart attack when Padma jumped off the tower." The smirking Sapphire didn't get a chance to answer her friend as an amplified voice rang out from within the stadium, and it wasn't Lee's. "I wish to lodge an official complaint. Not only are the rules of the competition being flouted, the very laws that govern our country have just been broken in front of thousands of witnesses too." Albus thought this was his moment. He had them now. Their own arrogance would be their undoing. These three have benefited from being considered adults. They now have to realize that these benefits come with certain responsibilities too. All three are clearly animagi, yet none of them are registered. That is against the law, and carries severe custodial penalties. They should be arrested at once, not rewarded by applause and maximum points. Amelia stood to a now silent stadium. Sirius had cancelled his charm to allow her to be heard, casting her own soreness. The head of the D merely answered those allegations. Assistant Headmaster Dumbledore is of course correct. Amelia had to pause for the groans and cries of no to die down. She was also letting Dumbledore have his moment. Being an unregistered animagus is a criminal offense. In his haste to see justice done, however, the good professor has overlooked the circumstances here. Centurion Crow is just that. A goblin citizen and a centurion. The ministry has no right to insist any member of the nation register their abilities. Miss Granger is the centurion's mate, and also a citizen of the nation. She too has no need to register any abilities. Both of these proclamations were greeted by cheers, and Dumbledore's mood darkened with each one. Amelia was looking forward to totally ruining his day. Miss Padma Patil is not actually a British citizen, her family moving here less than a decade ago from India. She too has no need to register with the Ministry of Magic, though that will change when she becomes a Longbottom next summer. I'm sure the next Lady Longbottom will comply with our country's laws. I happen to know her future in-laws very well, and can state with some certainty that will be the case. Harry had a girl in each hand as the trio then bowed to Amelia in respect. Having worked all this out beforehand, they had figured Dumbledore wouldn't be able to resist, and a public dismantling of his arguments should help keep him off balance. His fixation on Harry and his friends was now on a par with that of Voldemort, and they planned on treating him the same. When this was all over, Dumbledore and Umbridge were both going down too. They may not get the death penalty, but the odds currently favored both of them dying in Azkaban. Lee had quickly done the math and read out the combined scores. For coming second in the time trial, Victor received 17 points. Adding his scores from the judges and the first task gives the Drumstring champion a total of 79 points. This was greeted with great cheering from the stadium before they then quietened to hear the rest of the scores. Fleur received 15 points from the time trial part of today's task. Added with her other scores gives the beautiful Beauxbatons champion 80 points. Along with the cheering from the stadium, a bewildered Fleur found herself being congratulated by Roger and Gabrielle. She was still in front of Victor in the tournament. The stadium now fell silent. This was the score they wanted to hear. Lee didn't keep them waiting too long. After setting a quite unbelievable time, Harry won today's task, and is awarded 20 points. Some of those in the audience had already worked out the totals for themselves, and were cheering loudly. only Lee's amplified voice being able to pass that same information on to everyone else. Combined with his other scores, this gives the Hogwarts champion 82 points, and the lead. As the spectators now did their best to blow the stadium roof off with the noise they generated, Graham Cole found himself now beside Director Regnock. He easily remembered Arthur's briefing on this person, classing him as both a monarch and government leader. Graham knew it was no accident he was now next to this particular goblin. As friend Longbottom suggested, I want you to take a good look around you. Goblins, witches, wizards and muggles sitting in this bright cold day but warmly accepting each other's company. This has not happened for centuries, and these 4 teens are almost totally responsible for this wonderful sight. The 3 on the stage had signaled for their 6 friends to join them. All 9 were now greeting each other, and the applause just continued. Harry is a centurion, a not inconsiderable rank in our society, that has never been held by someone not of goblin birth before. His mate, Miss Granger, has been taken to the heart of our nation, like no one has ever managed before, so much so that in their last battle with these dark wizards and witches, warriors were ready to throw themselves in front of curses, if that was the only way to save her. Friend Patil is going to be the first witch or wizard ever to apprentice under a goblin master. Had Graham not already felt that what he'd witnessed here today was enough to send him into shock, this would have finished it. Ragnar could see he got through to this man. Our nation is taking a grave risk allowing this trap to be sprung. I will be there when it is, and would personally throw myself in front of a curse to protect any one of those 4. Our nation would survive my passing. The goblin presence in Britain might not survive theirs. There really was only one way Graham could respond to that. I think I have more than enough information to make my report. Let them enjoy today, and his father's birthday. I will speak to Arthur about taking me home. If it's any consolation, I think my government was wrong to withdraw its offer of help before having this investigation. I certainly hope I can be kept informed of how the final conflict goes. Ragnarok found himself being joined by his mate. Raintia had of course been listening to every word, and she smiled as she told Graham the only thing they were certain of. Believe me, Mr. Cole, the entire world will find out how this ends. Goldskin and his family were sitting in the stadium watching as his daughter had just participated in a quite astonishing event. His daughter was now being held up in their society of what it was possible for goblins to achieve. That she was a female just added to that sense of achievement. He didn't think he could be prouder of her. Dolores could only look on in disgust as the pure-blood wizard was now clearly in last place, and Dumbledore had been verbally taken apart by a supremely confident Amelia Bones. She also noticed the Bulgarian Minister of Magic sitting beside Fudge for today's proceedings. Cornelius Fudge was beginning to take on the mantle of a statesman, and both ministers appeared to have enjoyed themselves. Disturbingly, from Dolores' point of view, neither went anywhere near Albus Dumbledore. Even she was forced to admit. Crow had been impressive today. Using a mixture of Muggle and Goblin Woodman combined with those unbelievable Animagus transformations was a breathtaking sight. The Order of Merlin first-class Centurion showed himself to the thousands present here today as a formidable opponent. Combined with his equally powerful friends, they just might be unstoppable. After witnessing this, she was beginning to doubt whether Albus could now accomplish his lofty claims. The only thing stopping Dolores throwing herself onto Bones' mercy was the utter certainty she wouldn't receive any from that hard bitch. Dolores was committed to whatever plan Dumbledore had formed. She simply had no other options.